Luke, welcome on Blockchain Rock. Thanks a lot for coming and chatting with us.
Pleasure
You're
to
the
be here.
head of product at CUDOS. Would you mind, as it is custom here on this on our podcast, if you could give us a little bit of insight as to your background, how you ended up, working in the fintech space? The floor is yours, please.
Great. Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you. So my career in fintech space started about 3 years ago, 2 to 3 years ago. I worked at various digital companies. I worked in software development for a games developer. Then I moved to brand communications and marketing. I was always close to the technology and stuff that drives me is the software ability to build new products and things. And then I came across 4 years ago. I worked for the digital agency called Three-Sided Cube. It's one of the best digital agencies in the UK. And I came across a thing called blockchain, which is part of the financial technology sphere, especially cryptocurrencies.
How do you feel the first time you heard about it?
So I think the problem with the blockchain is the term itself is just too mysterious. What does that even mean? How do you explain blockchain to your mum or your dad?
Yeah.
But you can argue that would be the same with the internet back in the 90s. And I think it took me a while to get a grasp of it. So as everyone else, I bought my first Bitcoin on Coinbase and started to do some basic trading. That was back to end of 2016, 2017, the ICO era. So everyone was investing into projects. So I did a few investments that were pretty good. So I was a bit surprised how quickly it went. So then in 2016, end of 2016, 2017, I started looking for companies where I can actually work. I want to get into this space. I want to be part of this new wave, which is linked to technology, linked to finances, linked to doing something with this old school monetary policy that's hopefully will change the world now in terms of the blockchain. So I found it very fascinating. And then when I was working for that digital agency, I joined the startup called Cudo, which is back in end of 2017. So Cudo specializes in software development, currently building distributed computing platform, allowing anyone with a computer hardware to monetize it and like PCs. And rent out their computing power and get paid in return for that. So it's a hardware monetization.
And we had the opportunity to speak about the product that you're offering, which I find extremely interesting. And you mentioned that unlike other companies that offer that market their offer in the same way, you're actually focusing not only on the space, not only on the hard disk and the space in the computer, but you're actually talking about GPU and CPU, correct?
Yes, I think it's worth mentioning that we started with a big idea to help donate to charities with cryptocurrency mining. That was our first pre-alpha kind of alpha product. Our CEO Matt Hawkins, who comes from a cloud computing background, wanted to utilize the spare capacity of people have computers at home which are not used, sit idle most of the time. So he wanted to allow charities to receive donations from their supporters by just running their software on their computers. It was great. We had a few charities on board. We still have a few charities on board. And then we moved into as a sort of a roadmap to build this distributed computing platform, we had to build a supply of compute. One of the ways to build a supply of compute is to think, okay, who's actually using the GPUs, the CPUs, and those guys are cryptocurrency miners at the moment. So, which is within the blockchain and crypto, and then we'll build this cryptocurrency mining platform called Cudo Miner, which has got about 68,000 users as of now. We've got 15,000 active, 15,000 GPUs and CPUs running at the moment, like at this point in time. And we build a supply of compute, but then when we think of what's next, cryptocurrency mining is great, but it may be volatile, as cryptocurrency markets are. We know that in the fintech space. So we're trying to allow anyone with this unused hardware, like PCs, crypto miners, to use our Cudo compute platform and get paid for renting out their computing power. And the computing power, like coming back to your original question, was not just storage, which is a kind of a common thing, and there's a Filecoin which is doing that using the IPFS technology. We're talking about using your GPU to render a movie, using your CPU to do AI rendering, to do some medical modeling, fluid dynamics, etc.
So how would it work? I would, let's say, I could download your software, correct? Yes. And then I could let it run on the computer, and then automatically you would repurpose the power of my computer when I'm not using it, and I could monetize that power.
Exactly.
Like I would lend
and then you
power.
get paid in our own token called CUDOS, which we are going to launch soon. And we're getting ready for the token sale, looking for jurisdictions to register, and this is why we're here at this event today, actually. And you pinpoint a very important thing. our approach, and because my experience is in app development, software development for mass consumer products, I worked for, I created games and apps for Lego, Warner Bros. In the past. So this mass adoption of users is very important. So we came up with the idea that we should make crypto mining streamlined and simple as possible. And for this, we needed to design an app that's easy to use, set up in seconds, and you don't need to have any cryptocurrency or blockchain experience. So you don't need to know what blockchain is to use our software. And then you basically download the client, which is called, currently it's Cudo Miner for clients. There will be Cudo Compute for data centers. Okay. And what the software does, it mines cryptocurrency by default, because cryptocurrency is always available. It's almost like Pulse. You can always mine crypto. And if we have a computing workload available, such as if there's a company on the other end wants to render a movie, they send this workload to us, and we find the right computer for that workload with the right GPU. We send that video file to them. It's rendered. We return it back to the original, to the company who placed an order, and we incentivize and pay that person in CUDOS.
And for the person sending to you the file to be rendered, how do you ensure, security and the confidentiality of information?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So at the moment we are in phase 1 of building the platform. We're in the private sale and finishing the equity raise for the CUDOS to fund our operations. Security-wise, we first of all we've got a very big team. The big team is like 18 people, but the people have 15 to 20 years experience in engineering and hardware encryption and cloud computing. We're going to be using hardware-based encryption. We work with people who previously worked for renowned companies like Docker in the past for building containerized applications. And then obviously security is our most important thing. So there will be different types of workloads. Some workloads are not necessarily, could be public data like weather forecast, AI rendering, but obviously security is very important. So one of the ways of dealing with security is if a client has a particular need for security, we can send his workload to a data center that is ISO certified. Okay. So we know this is a containerized environment that's safe and secure, or depends on the level of security, you can send it to a gamer who's got a hardware-enabled encryption. Some of these examples are AMD's SEV or Intel SGX. So we're still exploring the best option, but security is something we prioritize from day one for that.
That's super. And going back on TriTech, yes. You mentioned that you're looking for a jurisdiction. Is there anything in particular you're looking, for a jurisdiction to offer in order to determine which one is the most suitable to you? Yeah. What do you think about these 3 jurisdictions? There's the synergy between them. Yeah. And if you could give us,
it's been a very great event, a very good event to network with people, understand what TriTech is doing. On the obviously, especially in Gibraltar, because this is one of the jurisdictions we've been looking into, is I'm quite fascinated by the amount of tech and startups and in the crypto, DLT, blockchain, and also gaming, quite fascinating. So this space is very important for us. For a requirements for a jurisdiction, we were looking for someone who can help us, we can get set up and running relatively quick without spending 6 months doing complicated forms that we won't even need. And we found that with some of the other jurisdictions that offer similar registrations for registering a project or issuing a token, for example, it's a bit of more of a administrative overhead for us. And what we do, we have a token that's used as a utility on the platform. So we don't exchange any of that. So we're looking for a relatively easy, quick way to set up, because we've got so much interest about the projects that we have the external pressure to do so. So it's fascinating.
Okay, last question. What's the next for CUDOS? What's the next step? So I guess, due to this conversation, the next step is finding the right jurisdiction where to get regulatory coverage and regulatory recognition. Is that correct?
That is true. So we're looking to register our projects. At the moment, we're still making the decision. Once that's done, we are going to be receiving private funds, and because we are in the private sale phase as well. And then after that, we're going to be looking at to issue our token to the public at some point in 2020. The date has not been confirmed. And most importantly is actually build the platform, because that's what we're doing it for. And we're not raising a huge amount of funds, because we've been funded for the last 2 years. We've been self-funded for the last 2 years. It's time to look for external funds. And for us, it's just to provide this, allow anyone with computing power to monetize their hardware and get some benefits, to align the incentives between the suppliers and the demand side. So that's very important, and to build a distributed computing platform for good as well.
I see. Look, thanks a lot for coming on Blockchain Rock and chatting with us. Wish you all the best, and we really hope to use your product soon, like to
Great.
have the product available.
Thank you
Thanks
very
a lot.
much. Thank
Thanks.
you.